Every now and then a movie or a song or a book has something provocative in it, and others call to ban or censor it under the guise of protecting the children, society, or whatever. And I do believe that movies can inspire us to behave in both good and bad ways. Things like street takeovers were largely inspired by movies like the Fast and the Furious franchise, or when, after watching Breaking Bad, two chemistry professors began making meth in their lab. Quite a few killers have been inspired to mimic the tactics, personas, or motives portrayed by characters they've seen on screen. But what inspires the people who make these movies, or in the case of this video, horror movies? In the 1940s, Ed Gein grew up on an isolated 158-acre farm in Plainsfield, Wisconsin. Alone, after his mother's death, he murdered at least 2 people, then did some gruesome things with their bodies, along with the bodies that he dug up out of a local cemetery. Living 35 miles away, author Robert Bloch was writing a book about the type of average man who lives next door that may be an insane killer. And when he heard of Gein, he made a few changes to his book titled Psycho, which was, of course, made into the Hitchcock movie. The Silence of the Lambs, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Maniac, and Deranged are just a few of the movies that credited Ed Gein with who inspired some of their plots. IMDb has a list of over 500 films based on real-life serial killers and infamous murderers. So where would the horror genre be without human beings doing some of the most awful stuff to other humans? And is it okay to get inspiration from these guys? In the early 80s, John McNaughton, a delivery man for video equipment rentals, directed a small-budget documentary about gangsters in Chicago during the 1930s called Dealers in Death. It had some success, and he was then hired to direct a documentary about wrestling, but the financing fell through, so instead they offered him some money to make a low-budget horror film. McNaughton was unsure how to proceed until he saw an episode of 2020 about the serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, who claimed to have killed over 250 people, but the number was probably more like 3. That inspired McNaughton to make the movie Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which helped to launch his and Michael Rooker's Hollywood careers. But he is not the only famous actor and director who landed jobs early in their career, playing characters based on real-life serial or spree killers. In the 1950s, 19-year-old Charles Starkweather murdered the parents and infant sister of his underage girlfriend, and then fled with her across the Midwest on a spree that left a total of 11 people dead. Just some of the movies like Badlands, Gun Crazy, California, and Natural Born Killers were inspired by or based on Starkweather, which in turn inspired copycat crimes. Natural Born Killer has influenced crimes like school shootings, with Columbine Massacre being the most infamous, or the Richardson's family murders, where Jeremy and his girlfriend Jasmine murdered her parents as well as her 8-year-old brother, or Sarah and her boyfriend Benjamin, who, after watching the movie, engaged in a multi-state crime spree which climaxed with murder. There was even a lawsuit filed against Oliver Stone, who directed that movie, for inspiring the crime, but it was thrown out on a First Amendment issue. Then there's Mark Branch, who was obsessed with horror movies. In 1988, he put on a hockey mask to resemble Jason Voorhees and stabbed a woman multiple times, killing her. Police later searched his apartment and found a shrine dedicated to horror movies. The film Wolf Creek is loosely based on the real-life serial killer Ivan Milat. The Strangers was influenced by the Ketty murders, an unsolved 1981 quadruple homicide that occurred in California. In 2010, a Canadian filmmaker, Mark Twitchell, became obsessed with the TV show Dexter. He set up a kill room in his garage, covering the walls with plastic sheets, just like the show. He then lured in a man to his garage under the guise of a fake online date, then murdered him and dismembered his body. And another infamous one that helped to revive a sluggish early horror movie industry that went sort of full circle began with the serial killer. In 1994, Kevin Williamson was a struggling screenwriter. While house-sitting, he watched a documentary about a serial killer named Danny Rolling. Rolling was known as the Gainesville Ripper. who murdered 5 college students in Florida in 1990. He mutilated some, decapitated one, and posed the bodies. He eventually confessed to killing 8 people. The documentary left Kevin unsettled, and he noticed an open window in the house. He grabbed a knife to make sure no one was inside. No one was. He then spent the next 3 days writing a script for a slasher movie named Scary Movie, which was later changed to Scream. That movie was a huge hit, and the satirical teen slasher horror genre became the rest of the 90s. Then in 2006, teenagers Brian and Tori stabbed and murdered their classmate Cassie in her aunt and uncle's house where she was house sitting for them. Looking for fame, the two wanted to go on a killing spree, hoping to outdo Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold from the Columbine school shootings, as well as Billy Loomis and Stu from the first Scream movie. Cassie had her boyfriend over to watch a movie, and he was friends with Brian and Tori, who stopped by to visit them. And while there, Brian unlocked the basement door, and then they left. Coming back later, going into the basement, wearing black outfits and masks, intending to kill Cassie and her boyfriend, they turned off the power via the circuit breaker to lure them to the basement. No one went to the basement, so they turned the power back on and the boyfriend went home. When he left, they turned the power off again, then went upstairs and attacked Cassie, stabbing her over 30 times. During the investigation, police found that those 2 teens had made videotapes detailing their plans to murder Cassie and other classmates. They even recorded their excitement after killing her. So serial killer Daniel Rolling inspired a guy to write the Scream screenplay, which inspired 2 teenagers to kill another teenager. So what inspired Rolling? Some link it to wanting infamy like Ted Bundy, who had been executed 2 years earlier. Rolling wrote that humans have hunting seasons to kill other mammals such as deer, so why shouldn't there be a hunting season to hunt and kill humans? And that most serial killers should have only been convicted of hunting humans out of season. The bigger the body count or gruesomeness of the murder, the more that TV shows and movies will take inspiration from them. Ted Bundy has over 100 listings on IMDb claiming inspiration from his crimes. And copycats are still popping up today who are inspired by Bundy's murder spree, with movies still being made that are inspired by these serial killers. So if some awful crime happens that inspires you to create a work of art that becomes really successful, don't be surprised if someone is inspired by your work to go on a homicidal murder spree. And when the outrage mob comes for you, demanding that you apologize and censor your work, tell them that it's really not your fault. It's just a never-ending cycle. Good night.
Pooh.